Hello, my name is Jordan Johnson and this is GB450 News. We have a developing story coming out of Puerto Rico, and this is the story. Puerto Rico is a major hub of drug manufacturing and one of the key manufacturer sites for saline bags that are ubiquitous in hospitals and medical clinics. The island's electrical grid was badly damaged by Hurricane Maria, and Puerto Rico still lacks power 5 months after the storm. Baxter International Inc. is the biggest U.S. supplier of small saline bags, and the company's plants in Puerto Rico lost power during the storm. The FDA, which is monitoring the supply of dozens of drugs made in Puerto Rico, said Baxter's facilities will be the priority access to the grid in order to keep the supplies flowing. The hurricane that wreaked havoc on Puerto Rico 5 months ago has disrupted production widely used IV solutions. Several prominent hospitals across the country are scrambling to find alternative supplies, change the ways they administer drugs, and devise backup plans to make the fluids themselves. The products affected the smaller volume bags of sodium chloride known as saline and dextrose. These normally ambiguous solutions are used to rehydrate patients and dilute medications from antibiotics to painkillers to cancer drugs. Their manufacturer, Baxter International, has said that multiple production days were lost in the wake of Hurricane Maria, and it has set up an allocation system for hospitals based on past purchases. And now I'm going to bring in two business experts and a scientist to further explain the details of this situation. What is sterile intravenous saline used for?
Sterile normal saline, in its very basic form, is a saltwater solution. It is isotonic and it has salt similar to that of the human blood, and therefore will neither dehydrate or overhydrate cells. It is primarily used intravenously for hydration and to treat metabolic alkalosis. When a person has lost fluids or is low in sodium, it also has use during blood transfusions, and it can prevent clotting during dialysis and dilute IV medications administered over an extended period of time.
How critical or non-critical is it to patient care?
Often used for convenience. For example, a person may be given IV hydration even though they are capable of consuming electrolytes fluids by mouth. It also allows the nurse to take care of more patients at a time because they're not pushing medications. Very important when a medication requires slow administration for safety. Minutes or even hours is not unrealistic.
Puerto Rico is a major supplier of intravenous fluid to the U.S. What percentage of IV fluid do they provide to the U.S.?
Baxter Healthcare Corporation's manufacturing plants in Puerto Rico shut down in response to Hurricane Maria. Baxter's production alone accounts for over 43% of the United States intravenous fluid. There are other major companies such as Pfizer and ICU Medical.
Did the U.S. responsibly outsource?
The U.S. did not.
Why not?
The supplier had been facing many challenges even before Hurricane Maria. Saline solution has been on the drug shortage list since 2014. The flu season is underway. There have been multiple interruptions in electricity supply which interfered with operations. Puerto Rico is also under constant threat from tropical storms. The manufacturers have also been under scrutiny. For example, just last year, Baxter was ordered by the U.S. Department of Justice to pay more than $18 million in resolution of criminal and civil liabilities, basically stemming from mold on filters in the clean room used for production.
I believe the FDA response is appropriate.
I do. The FDA tested the use of intravenous normal saline and determined it does not harbor bacteria or fungus. By extending the expiration dates beyond the 28-day shelf life, FDA reduces the demand of IV saline in the hospitals.
Also, solution was imported from other regions, including Australia, to help increase supply. Manufacturers were encouraged to import saline from their other facilities and increase production capacity.
What was the impact of Hurricane Maria on safe medication administration?
Shortage of small normal saline bags. Medical professionals began pulling from bigger bags, withdrawing from the bag more frequently. Each time normal saline is drawn up from that bag, the risk of contamination is increased. IV bags were sourced from around the globe, and we have not fully validated by the US FDA. They are not checked as diligently for contamination, which could mean that the vetting process for the other countries is less than what it is in the US.
What short-term solutions would you consider if your department was running low or out of intravenous saline bags?
A short-term solution would be to use volume control administration set capable of diluting some medications which do not require heavy dilution or hours of administration. This could require additional training for nursing staff, and it is a little more costly at $12 per set versus $10 per saline bag retail price.
What processes or protocols would be impacted?
The main processes or protocols that were impacted include the purchasing processes, the supply chain processes, the medication delivery protocol, and the overall process of IV saline usage.
The organizations need to review their supply disruption plans for the IV saline, disposables, and medications and leverage the solutions from the previous experiences. Secondly, review on the medical administration protocols and alternate the options for delivery. Finally, reach the purchasing staff and other medical center and contact the vendor for any possible purchases of IV saline.
The solution itself is safe to use for up to 28 days, but what happens to the plastic that holds the liquid? There are concerns about the leaching of chemicals like DEHP and PVC, which are theorized to cause cancer. From the bags into the solution. We've received bags from Ireland, Australia, Canada, Mexico, England, Italy, and Brazil, and these countries may not have the same standards that our FDA has.
What long-term impact could this have from a medical and business perspective?
Long-term concerns over supply planning and patient care. The very existence of a shortage with no decrease in demand creates the potential for increased prices, risk of antitrust transactions, and price fixing. Since IV solutions were added to the drug shortage list in 2014, prices have risen 200 to 300%. Pfizer, ICU Medical, and Baxter have received subpoenas last year in an antitrust and price fixing investigation.
What are your ideas for a better solution in the future?
We could utilize the substitute processes for medication administration where possible and appropriate to lessen the strain on the supply. Create a prioritized schedule for the supply on hand. There are also different medications that can be used for the same purpose and will not require dilution with normal saline. For instance, some medications could be substituted with oral medications.
Encourage compounding pharmacies to allocate excess capacity to production of normal saline and allocate resources to research and development for alternatives.
This is Jordan Johnson, signing off.